All right, welcome to the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. I'm your man, Big Jack. This is where we prove we are stronger together, that if each one would reach one, we can all grow and glow. And it's just another beautiful day. It's another beautiful day. I'm super excited about being here in front of you and all the things that's been going on today. You could tell that the spring is in the air. The weather was warm today. Ended up at work and should have been on a golf course, but hey, you got to pay the bills. So maybe I can catch some golf this weekend or something like that. But you're not here for that. You're here to find out who's my special guest today. And I'm super excited about my guests. And I want to bring my guest to the stage. If you bear with me 1 second, we get my guest on the stage. All right, welcome to the show, Dr. Carla Martin. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm amazing. I'm truly blessed to have you on the stage with me, and I'm excited. I'm super excited. So thank you for being on the Iron Sharpening Iron show.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here. Thank you. I already see some folk coming in.
Oh
And
yeah, they're
so
coming
good.
in right now. Yeah, so the snapback Trishana is out there already, and the
Yeah.
source is here, and lyrics by Nithya is out there. So we done. So right now we are live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. And then after the show, we'll definitely cut it up a little bit and put it on TikTok and Instagram. But other than that, and we will make sure we recognize the people that's in the chat. And I see that you too are live in your channel, so you're live. So when your supporters come, they can come straight to you and get on the show as far as being in the chat. So, but it's all about you. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Carla? How you doing? And tell me
I'm
about yourself.
okay. I'm okay. I am a mother, a grandma, a wife, teacher, pastor. My primary office or gift to the body of Christ is an apostle. Flow in the prophetic. I'm an author. I don't
Mm,
know if you knew that, but I'm an author of the book "So You Think You're Equally Yoked"
mm,
and learning to sustain a healthy marriage. And so it's my first book, hopefully not my last.
oh, okay. All right.
and I love empowering people to become just everything that God has called them to be. That's
Mm,
my passion. I love helping people, but more importantly, I love teaching and empowering people.
mm. Okay, that's good. So now, what was the title of the book again?
So you think you're equally yoked?
Okay, all right. I like that already. So I have to check that out. So where could we find that book? Where could we go?
You can find it on Amazon.
Oh, it's on Amazon. Okay.
It's on Amazon. I think it's an ebook as well on there.
Okay. All right. So I mean, we'll make sure before this show is over, we'll get the link out so that we can make sure we find your book. So that's good. So now, before we get to how do you get to the book and more about the book, but how did this start? So what was your young years like? Let's say up till 10 years old. What was your childhood like? You
Well, I grew up in the metropolitan area. So I'm actually from the DMV area, although I reside now in Tampa, Florida.
okay.
Um, so my childhood, I don't remember a lot of my childhood, honestly, before about 7. I know that my mom worked hard. My her and my dad divorced when I was very young, although it did not feel like they were divorced because he was always at our home eating and putting his feet up. And so round about 7 is when I kind of had my earliest memories, and then we moved to Maryland,
Mm,
and that's where I pretty much grew up at in Maryland,
okay.
Prince George's County. For those that know anything about Maryland, um, and they were very confusing times for me, Big Jack, because my house was not your ordinary house, I guess, because of the fact that my father was not, they were divorced, but he was always at my house.
Mm,
And he called the shots.
mm,
Um, and so it was interesting watching at such a young age, my mom honored him as this husband that she once had, and as the father of her children, and so we were taught to honor him at all costs. And so it was a very confusing time for me. I can't say I was necessarily happy or unhappy. It was just very confusing.
Right.
Because of the dynamics. My father actually remarried another woman. And so, and I grew up in an era where I'm brown skinned, dark skinned. They considered me dark. Mm-hmm. And my mom, my dad, and my brother, which is my only, full sibling, are very light. Oh, and so that too was very confusing. Like, why am I so dark and they're so light? Right. If you saw my father, he looks practically, Caucasian. And so there was a lot of confusion around that as well. We grew up in an era where, you couldn't talk, but you could just be seen.
Right.
I was very muzzled, as a young person as well.
Oh, wow. That now I'm taken back to the fact, because you said you from PG County. Well, you grew up in the PG County area. I too grew up in the PG County area, so I'm from the DMV as well. So yeah, I'm born and raised right there in the Washington D.C. area, all the way up until I went to college, and then that's when I more got outside the DMV. But other than that, a lot of my family still there in the PG County. If you get to Six Flags, you got my whole family right there. So if you know what that is. And back in the day, I guess it was Venture Park USA for a while, if you remember that. So in the Capitol Center and all of that. So all that, where that used to be, that's where we grew up at. So so you know a little bit about the era. And so that's pretty. It's not. I guess I'm still more thinking about what you said with your mom and your dad, because then in fact, you might have had, you could look at it as a 2-parent household, but it just wasn't the traditional husband and wife bond. But so, and you're saying that could have been confusing. I can see what you're saying about that being confusing. And how long did you stay in PG County? You said because you moved to Florida, but what was that?
Well, I didn't move to Florida until 2011. I thought I would never leave home. Like, I stayed in Maryland my whole life.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, okay.
I lived in Maryland my whole life until I moved here in 2011. And if I had not, if it were not for the weather, you might remember in 2010 we had a huge 15 inches or something. Like, it was huge.
Yeah, Snowmageddon.
Yes. Oh my
goodness. Yeah, yes.
And that was just too much for me.
Right.
That was too much. So I decided at that point that I definitely needed to leave the area.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember that snowstorm. I was working, and I remember them bringing in special vehicles from Canada for us to handle the snow, because they were trucking the snow to Pimlico racetrack in Baltimore. And putting it out in the parking lot, and then bring that special vehicle in just to melt the snow. That's how much snow we were getting. So yeah, I remember that. And that made you leave Maryland and run to Tampa?
I was done.
Or run to Florida. Okay. Oh, wow.
I was done.
Oh, wow. That's
I was married. I was married at the time, and I was newly divorced. And so here I am with a child. I think she was around maybe 12, in a 6-bedroom house, huge house, 3 floors, 4 freezers. Like, it was just madness. And no power, no electric.
Yeah.
Nothing. And I thank God for neighbors, that we looked out for each other. They knew the situation. And so, but I can remember standing in my yard after I was finally able to get out of my house, and just letting off this extreme deep holler. Wow. And I'm a person, I don't like a lot of noise, right? I only like noise from music. And so you know, my daughter's standing there looking like, oh my goodness, my mother has lost her mind out here screaming and hollering.
Right.
But it was just this inner pain that, you know, like enough is enough. Nothing, I can't take anymore. I had to let it out.
Right.
And it was such a freeing moment, but a very scary moment as well.
I can imagine that, and people don't believe that cabin fever is real. That a person could be shut down and isolated from everything else, and that it can get to you. That and a lot of people don't believe that's real. So you expressing that it just points out that, hey, that thing is real. It can really bog you down, and to the point that you have to scream, especially when there's no power. So it's not like I'm sitting there watching TV and I'm not watching looking at the radio. I can't open the refrigerator because I'm letting out any cold that might keep my food, even though I could just lay it outside because it was enough snow. It would just freeze it. But at the same time, a lot of stuff was lost during that time. So, before we move on to your teenage years, because now I know you're in PG County, or at least in the DMV area, and we're going to talk about some of the teenage years. We're going to recognize those that might be out in the chat right now. So Snapback Shoshana is out there. Lyrics by Nithya is there. Els Endeavor, hello, how you doing? Sharon Jackson. Now, Sharon Jackson, that's my mom. My mom is out here in the chat right now. So, and she's in PG County right now. So that's where she lives at. Again, Cassie's Kitchen Creation is in the house. And hello, how you doing? And I just want to make sure I know the source was out there. Edward Johnson, hello, Captain Johnson, how you doing? And so we're here on the Iron Shopton Iron Show. We got Dr. Carla here, and we're getting ready to find out about some teenage years, but we're going to do that right after this quick commercial break. So I'm going to let you store up and get us when we come back off this break real quick.
Get ready for the ultimate live experience. Join us on stage where music, poetry, and comedy collide in a night to remember. Top musicians, spoken word artists, and comedians come together for a unique and unforgettable show. From soulful melodies to side-splitting jokes, this jam-packed event has it all. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as we bring you the best of the best in this one-of-a-kind performance. Are you ready for the next We Be Jammin' Live?
All right, welcome back to the Iron Shopton Iron Show. Here I have Dr. Carla with me, and we're going to talk about some of the teenage years in the DMV. So, Dr. Carla, do you mind sharing a little bit about your teenage years while you was in DMV?
Well, I was a shy kid, and that kind of went over into my teenage years as well. I was a very curious kid. Very curious. And, I had a lot of questions about life and people. People were strange to me at a very young age.
Okay.
The way I saw people treat each other, even in my household, like I had a very close family. We were so close. We probably had dinners almost every month of the year.
Right.
The entire family. And so, I was used to that, but my household was very strict. My father was very strict. He believed in punishment. And interesting, my mother got saved when I was about like 9 or so.
Oh, wow.
So the liberties that we had, somewhere between 9 and 12, the liberties that we kind of grew with, when I got to be 12, 13, 14, they were out. And so it was it was a very, I don't want to say confusing, but I want to say challenging, because we had to adapt to a lifestyle that we were not used to.
Mm.
And so my mother became a Seventh-day Adventist.
Oh, okay.
And because there were no Seventh-day Adventist churches that she liked, we used to travel to New Jersey every weekend.
Oh,
but
wow.
but that meant that we had to prepare for the trip every week, you know. And so while most kids were out, most teenagers were kind of out doing their thing, I was preparing to go to New Jersey.
Got you.
And I got to a point that I didn't like it. You know, I didn't like the traveling. I didn't like the fact that there were questions that I had in the church. They couldn't answer me, you know, nobody could answer. I would ask my parents questions they wouldn't answer with my mom. And so it led me to kind of go off into the world at a young age and seek answers, if you will, for myself.
Right.
You know? And so that's what I did at a very young age. I went to the world and I did everything. I did everything that I possibly could before I was old enough to do it.
Got you. Look, I understand that for sure. So, where I want to say high school. What high school did you go to, if you don't mind sharing that?
Oh my goodness. We were among the first of the people of color that went to Roosevelt High School.
Roosevelt, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Over in the Greenbelt area.
Yes.
Greenbelt, Maryland, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Eleanor, I think that's Eleanor Roosevelt over there. Okay.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah, okay.
And, Duval, so.
Yeah. So I know that area. I know that area well. So yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's cool. And so the travel to New Jersey and, like I say, it got you out. But the curiosity, is that when you started, I guess, forming your own opinion or receiving your calling to the ministry, or is that in that time frame, or it's a little later than that for you?
It definitely is a little more later than that. I do think that I had a call on my life then, but because we were in a different type of church, because I got saved, filled with the Holy Ghost, speaking in tongues at like 11.
Okay.
So it's not like I did not know the Spirit of God. It's just that my questions were so beyond my age that when people looked at me, they said, well, you don't need to know that. You know, you're too young. I mean, I was curious about, I don't know what we can say and cannot, but, you know, I was curious about the opposite of me, you know?
Right.
I wanted to know about the little boys.
And,
you know, I wanted to understand, like, why they so different than we are, you know? How is it that, you know, we're supposed to love each other, but yet there's so much violence around me. There's so much, you know, drama. And I was the kind of person that everybody came to me with their problems.
Right. Okay.
No, I was very shy and off to myself. People kind of sought me out. And so I would hear a lot of things, you know, and about things that were going on in other people's homes. How could a father do this to his daughter?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, those things were mind-boggling to me at such a very young age. And when you're young and people are asking you to hold a secret, right? You don't know necessarily, at least I didn't know whether or not, well, is this something that I really should tell? Because this doesn't sound good.
Right.
This is not happening in my house, you know? And so there was conflict in spirit a lot for me, but I found my solace in doing things in the world, you know, getting into drinking and smoking and everything else outside of basically shooting dope, you know.
Right.
And I kind of started in that world, and it took me over 15 years to get out of it.
Right. Wow. Okay.
You know?
Yeah, that's and you said you was there till around 2010. Is that what you? Okay, so you probably went through a lot. I was there until 1989 is when I left high school, going to college. So, like I say, my family's still there. A lot, my mom and my aunts and cousins and all of that's in the PG, my sister. But as far as I was living in that area, so I do know at one time that DMV was the murder capital of the world. Um, drugs was definitely real high. I mean, say no to drugs and all of that during in different eras and different administrations. There was all war against drugs, and DMV was here. And if a lot of people don't know out there, if you're in the chat and you don't know what the DMV is, that is the District, Maryland, and Virginia. So it's the Washington, D.C. area. It's the PG County area of Maryland and the Northern Virginia area. So Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., PG County, Maryland makes up the DMV. So there's a lot of people I know that's out there that know the DMV, and we say it all the time, but it is not the Department of Motor Vehicles. It is the District, Maryland, and Virginia, because a lot of people think, I was at the DMV. Like, no, to the point they changed DMV in the Maryland area to MVA, Motor Vehicles Administration. So because you couldn't use DMV, that was already taken. So, but and if you're from that area, you know exactly what we're talking about. If you're not, then you just be lost. But it is the Washington, D.C., the Northern Virginia, and the Maryland area. So, all right. So we went through high school and we're going into adulthood. So I'll say about 18, 19 years old, if you don't mind sharing. So how was that in the DMV area?
I've had several tragedies in my life, traumas in my life. And around about the age that we were supposed to be graduating, I had a trauma that would change the course of where I was headed. So I dropped out of school in my 11th grade year. We were supposed to go back for the 12th grade. And this situation happened to me in the summer. And so I was pretty much kidnapped and held for some time, for some days. And so because no one really believed me when I got out of it, I left the DMV area and went up to, we used to call it the country, Jack. I don't know. I can't remember. Like, it's way up the Beltway.
Please don't say Frederick.
Headed that direction, okay. Well, we were headed up. That's where some of my family was.
Okay.
On my grandfather's side, and so I went there to try to get my mind back together.
Got you. Okay.
Right. And it helped. It helped a lot. But of course, when you're in that lifestyle, you're gonna find it.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna find it. And I like making money, so I was on both sides of the coin.
Right. I got you.
So I found it there, and eventually my aunt was like, "No, you got to go back down to PG.
Oh, no.
You can't stay up here." And so I ended up going back home, and then I moved to Washington. And even though I was from the metropolitan area, my parents never allowed me to go into Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay.
I was strictly a suburbanite girl. Okay. Gotcha. If I was found in DC, yeah. So here I am, 17, 18 years old, boyfriend, living in an apartment in Southeast.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so, that didn't last long either, right? Yeah. Before I was back home again. Yeah. And it was at that time that my mom really began to talk to me about, life and what was ahead of me, because I was still very young.
Right.
And, she wanted me to know that partying and doing all the things that I was doing, that wasn't the end, that every decision that I was making was actually shaping my life. And I don't know if I understood it, but I did know that there were guidelines that she set out before me. And because I loved her so much, I was willing to adhere to those guidelines.
Right. Okay.
So one of the first things I did was, get my GED.
Mm.
I don't know if you remember the secretarial school in DC, where they also offered GED classes. I went there, I got my GED, I got my secretarial skills, and I got a job, you know.
Was that the Washington School for Secretary?
Washington School for Secretaries.
Okay. Hey, I know someone in the chat gonna say they went to that school. Yeah, I know of the school only because my mom went to the Washington School for Secretary. So, yeah.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Mom. It was good. I gained so much skill there. I have been typing since I was a little girl. Like my grandmother used to sit me up on the table and with the old typewriters and the
Right.
yeah, and that was my entertainment. And so we I knew how to type from a young age, but there is where I really gained my skill and became very sharp at word processing.
Right. Well, that's awesome. That Sharon Jackson in the chat that said I went to that school. So yeah, I knew I knew that. Yeah, so I knew she went to it because I remember she went to Washington School for Secretaries. Yeah. So let's recognize some of the people that's in the chat real quick, Dr. Carla. And we got lyrics by Nithya. Sharon Jackson's there. You got Shan Rand, the pulpit wife, is out there, and she's through your link. The source is there, and he said we be jamming. Yeah, so the We Be Jamming show is coming up this Saturday, April 26th. We got definitely a full lineup this time. For the first time, we're going to actually use videos where other people have sent in videos. So it won't be the first time, but we had a lot of artists allow me, and they sent in videos so we could be able to put them on the show. Snapback Trishana's in the house. Els Endeavor is out there. So hello, Els again. Lyrics by Nithya, I think we already said. Cassie's Kitchen Creation is there. B is in the house. Hello, B is in the house, and dropped that link for the We Be Jamming live show. So thank you. We're going up some more. If we can look, I know Captain Johnson's out there. Sharon Jackson, I think we already said. The source is in there. And so we're here on the Iron Sharpening Iron show. Got Dr. Carla. She's already walked us through her younger years, her teenage years, and now we just graduated from the Washington School for Secretary. So, yeah. and for those who don't know, I'm going to drop this on you real quick. And Niecy Jackson just came in the house. And Niecy Jackson, that's my aunt. So my aunt, my mom, and sometimes my kids pop in. So it's, it's a family fun show. So I appreciate it. But the DMV, so Washington, D.C. area, you had Washington, D.C., you had the Northern Virginia, and you had the PG County parts of Maryland. But even though we called it the DMV, those lines was real thick. So you didn't cross over. So when Dr. Carla said you didn't go into D.C. if you're from PG, and D.C. didn't come into PG County because it was just real thick. We was you stayed on your side of the tracks. So that was how we looked at it. So. And it was almost like, yes. So, and it was funny because Washington, D.C. Allowed you to have fireworks. So I'm thinking of 4th of July. It was legal in Washington, D.C., but it was illegal in Maryland. So people would have to cross the line to go into D.C. to get fireworks so they can do it illegally in their neighborhood or whatever. So that was some of the stuff that you had to do. And when I was younger, and my mom is there, so this is another one that she's going to find out. But we would do something wrong on the D.C. side and then run back on the Maryland side so the police couldn't chase you. But they got smarter than that. So now they use joint jurisdiction and all that other stuff. So, yeah, I definitely wasn't an angel back then. So, so we're going to show a quick commercial and come back and we're going to talk a little bit about one, I want to talk about your book. And I know that B is here. So once we get the book back, we'll get the title and hopefully B can give us that link and put it in the chat for us. So so give me the name of the book one more time, and then we'll go to the commercial, Dr. Carla.
Yes, So You Think You're Equally Yoked.
So You Think You're Equally Yoked, and it's on Amazon.
And it's
All
on
right.
Amazon.
All right. So
Martin.
when we come back, we're going to have you talk a little bit about your book, if that's okay. All right?
Okay.
All right.
Get ready for the ultimate live experience. Join us on stage where music, poetry, and comedy collide in a night to remember. Top musicians, spoken word artists, and comedians come together for a unique and unforgettable show. From soulful melodies to side-splitting jokes, this jam-packed event has it all. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as we bring you the best of the best in this one-of-a-kind performance. Are you ready for the next We Be Jammin' Live?
All right, welcome back to the Iron Shopping Iron Show. Got my guest, Dr. Carla, with me, and she has definitely walked us through her life. And we were just coming out of the Washington School for Secretaries, where she's now a master typist, if we want to use that. So is this? I know you said you had a lot of things that was a turning point for you. So the tragedy that you suffered while in high school, and now you're getting yourself back on your feet and in a direction. So is that when the calling came, or so still no? So we ain't got there yet. So
We ain't got there yet.
Keep taking us through so we can get to the calling. So yeah.
So I had to go through. I had to spend some years, chasing life and chasing what I think the kids call it the bag, right? I was chasing it.
I got you.
And so it took me, I would, get good jobs and wouldn't stay on them, get bored, look at my paycheck 2 weeks later and be like, I can do this in 2 nights. Like,
oh, wow.
So it was some years before I came out of that lifestyle. I had another tragedy that actually happened to me. I was assaulted in my apartment and left for dead.
Oh, wow.
And so that was around the time where, HIV and stuff was strong. It was just hitting and there was a lot of people that would not want to enter into my apartment because of what was there and the condition in which I was in. But I'm so thankful that somebody looked beyond that and saw this young girl that needed help. And so you're probably familiar with the hospitals in Baltimore. They flew me to Baltimore for help. Both of my hands were completely cut from trying to fight off my perpetrator. And so they said to my mom, she's probably, we don't know if she's going to make it. We don't know if we're going to save her hands. My mom is like, you have to save her hands because that's her occupation. I had made, I had made it very well in working. I worked for the Department of Defense, and so I, thinking about not being able to go back to an occupation that I had been doing for over 10 years was something. But I'm so grateful for those doctors who mended my hands. And when I came out of that, it wasn't long after that happened that I decided that something had to change. I didn't know what that was, but I knew that there had to be a change because I really literally could have lost my life. They lost me on the table a couple of times, at least twice. And so it was a couple of months later. That happened in August. In November is when my life changed and I really sought some help. And then I, stayed in the 12-step programs for 5 years. And then I came into the Lord. And after coming into the Lord, learning, getting my mind clear, readjusting to life, this new life, because after that happened, I had to change my occupation. I had to change my entire life, basically, And so not knowing what I wanted to do because my childhood aspirations were so crazy that my mother would just kind of look at me and like, you have to think of something else. Why can't you just be a normal kid that want to be a nurse or a lawyer or something? And so, so I had to rethink things, And it was around that time that I got called into ministry.
Okay.
Um,
Oh,
so
wow. Hmm. Yeah, that's a different way of getting there. I mean, it's you have to have the life experiences. I guess that's sometimes it's, the unfortunate part that we have to go through some things. As I would say a lot of times, to get to the next mountaintop, you got to go through the valley.
yeah,
So we go through that valley, and while you're in the valley, you don't have to stay there, but
right.
it's giving you the life lessons, and then like you say, then the calling was on your life. I'm
Mhm.
It might have been shock trauma unit, like John Hopkins. He's up in that area. Uh,
Yeah, I believe it was John Hopkins Hospital that they took
yeah,
me
so
to.
yeah,
Mhm.
up in Baltimore and
Trauma.
Maryland. Yeah,
That
so
was the
there.
trauma hospital, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. So I'm seeing some more people that's out there. I see Patty is in there. Hello, Patty. Lyrics by Nithya. B is there, and B did drop the link to your book. So those who you see the book down here, so you think you are equally yoked, and that was that's your first book, as you said. I'm seeing that Niecy Jackson's in the house. I also see that Kamaria Jackson's in the house. Hello, Kamaria, and how you doing? And thank you for coming here on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. And for those who don't know who that is my wife. So my wife is in the chat. So hello, and how you doing? River of Life Ministries, and that's you, and that's what that's the name of your ministry, River of Life Ministry.
Yes, that is the ministry name that we took on when we came to Florida. Our original name is Shabbat World Ministry Church,
Okay.
and that was founded in Maryland. And when we moved here to Florida, I wanted to do something different. I felt like God was leading us, and He had given me that name, but I wasn't sure what it was for. And so we took that name, and that's what we operate as now.
Right. Well, that's an awesome name because the first church I ever opened on my own, was called the River of Life Ministry. So yeah, River
Wow.
of Life. I love that church. I love the name. I've always like River of Life. Whenever I'm open to church, it's called me River of Life, just because of the song. I got a river of life flowing out of me, make the lame to
Yes.
walk and the blind to see, and yeah, and that was the whole thing. I got a river of life flowing out of me, and that was that was my that was my song, and that was my ministry right there. So it's so cool to see it out there, and I'm glad that you're operating under River of Life Ministry. And what part of Florida is that?
Tampa.
Tampa, Florida. Okay,
Mhm.
beautiful city. Been there, been there. So it's a beautiful city out there. It gets cold, but not cold, but it's
Right.
not as hot as Southern Florida down in the more it's more from that northern. So it gets it's more mild up there. So I like that. So I
Mhm.
see Yasmin Razer is out there. So they're saying, "Hey, Apostle." Make sure I get the name right. You might know it better than me, but there he is, Yasmin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the source is here. Thank you, source. And then we see lyrics by Nisi Jackson B, and thanks for putting that link in B.
Thank
And then let's see, Sharon Rand, the pulpit wife, Els Endeavor is here. Thank y'all for being here. Unspoken Truth Toad is in the house, and
you.
hello. So we making sure we hit everybody. I see Captain Johnson is here. Hello, Captain. And Snapback Trishana is still in the house. So hello, everybody, and thank you for being here on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. And I got Dr. Carla with me, and super excited again. So we got the calling, and now we have a book. How did we get to your book?
Well, it took me a while to accept the calling. When I was called into ministry, women weren't preachers.
Mm.
I was a AME girl, and those that do not know, it's the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and so very traditional. They had women operating in ministry, but you had to go through their school. Everything had to be done the AME way, and so. But I can remember God calling me to ministry and not feeling worthy enough, questioning, did he have the right person? Like, why me? Maybe I'm hearing wrong, all of that, all of the denial that you could possibly have towards the Lord calling you into ministry. It was all present. But my pastor, he came from over the oh my goodness, what was the name of that part that was across the water? Um, anyway, he grew up understanding the spirit of God, and so he saw the spirit of the Lord on me.
Mm.
I can remember Big Jack, like, you know, the Lord dealing with me, and I didn't shouted myself completely down on the floor, like I'm just no more good.
Right.
And him telling, leave her there. God is dealing with her. Leave her there. And so, it after some while, I finally said yes to the call, and it was around that time that I actually went into the non-denominational sector, where I grew a lot in the spirit of God. And you know, it was difficult back then in terms of challenges as a woman, because I had my own ideas. I had my preconceived ideas, like a woman shouldn't preach, you know, unless you're married.
Mm.
And I wasn't married. I was divorced.
Right.
And so divorced women shouldn't be in the pulpit. Like, I had all of these things that I had grown up with, and having to shut that down along with the insecurities and all of what was going on the inside of me. And I can remember those, you know, that are on Rivers of Life probably have heard me say this. I remember going to my pastor, Big Jack, and I was like, you know, I think I'm called to ministry. And I think I'm called to preach. And my pastor looked at me, and, you know, he was such a patient man. And I said, but I think God got the wrong person, right?
No.
You know? And he just kind of looked at me like, okay. And so as I continued to plead with him for him to tell me, yes, you're wrong. Like, you know, he just sat there and listened very, very patiently. And then he says, so you think this perfect God that we serve makes mistakes, huh? You know? And it was at that moment that I really, really began to see that, you know, the God that we serve, he doesn't make mistakes. Our past is our past. And we have to go through it to get to wherever we land. And that was a journey for me. This whole thing has been quite a journey. And so I stayed in that church for quite a while until I was faced with some demonic warfare.
Mm.
And I was sent out to pastor my pastor's second church. And that's where I experienced the warfare. And it was at that point, God had kept giving me this name, Shabbat. And remember the song, Shabbat, Hallelujah?
Yeah.
That was around that time when this. And so I was like, okay, you just want me to praise you a little more. I don't know how much more I can praise you, but okay.
Right.
And so, you know, I would, oh my goodness, I would dance and I would shout and have a good time. And then finally I was sitting in my living room one day, and the Lord says, I did not tell you to Shabbat me. So I said, oh, okay. And that was the birth of the ministry.
Right.
My living room right there. You know, but when I say I was a woman on the run, I was on the run. I went looking for Shabbat. I said, there's got to be somewhere.
Right.
Be inside of me, right?
Wow, that's that definitely a different way of hearing how you call, especially when you think it's a mistake, because you're right. Mm-hmm. We don't feel worthy to receive that, especially when it is laid on your heart. I remember that day, you know, saying that you get called, and it's like, okay, all right, and you're trying to justify, and you're right, you're looking for someone to tell you that yes, you're right, or no, this is not it, and you know. So, but have you had any challenges, or have anyone challenged you now that you are pastoring your church and you say apostle? Have anyone challenged your ministry as far as like you said, you had the fear and you used to give it to yourself, but has anyone ever challenged you as far as saying a woman shouldn't be ministering? Or
not face to face? No, not that. I've had other challenges, but not that specific one. When I was being called to ministry, I was actually first consecrated as a pastor, because that's the ministry I was under. And then when I started my own church, the Lord led me to a woman that was attending Evangel Temple.
Okay.
And she was an apostle. And what she saw in me was the prophetic anointing. And I was like, prophet, huh? And I had followed many prophets in Maryland. So I didn't particularly like the ministry of the prophet. It scared me a little bit. And so she kept saying, no, you're a prophet, you're a prophet. And what the Lord had told me is that I put the fivefold ministry in you. And because that was in the early 1990s, mid 90s, we didn't know what fivefold meant, at least not in the church I went to. And so it wasn't clear to me what that meant. And so when I was with her, she said, prophet, that didn't sit right though. I knew I had the anointing and the gift, but that just didn't set right. And so I went through because I have always prided myself on being an obedient type of person to authority, and very grateful for whomever God puts in my life to get me to that next place. Very, very grateful. And so I allowed her to have me consecrated as a prophet. And then I met my spiritual mother, who was also an apostle, and my spiritual father, who was an apostle. And I remember her asking me one question: what did the Lord say? Those that attend the school, I have a Bible college, an accredited Bible college. They know that's my question. Though some of them are on here too.
All right.
That's what I ask them. What did God say?
All right.
And
Gotcha.
so I told her what the Lord said, and she said, "Baby, that you're not you have a prophetic anointing, an apostolic anointing, but when God says that He has put the fivefold, that means you're an apostle. You carry every gift." And something in my spirit, though I still felt inadequate, something in my spirit felt at peace for the first time. That happened in 2003. I started my church in 2001. So we're talking, 3 years that there was this uncomfortability there. And so I finally felt like I belonged. And so my next consecration was that of an apostle. And I still fought. Don't get me wrong. Like, I still fought the whole thing, because all I could see was this perfectedness in the pulpit. I didn't see humanity so much. I didn't see flaws. I thought what I saw was these perfect vessels. And I knew that I was not that. So it was still very, very difficult to continue on. But with the help of those around me, those that I just mentioned, they pushed me, they encouraged me, and eventually I got married and was able to go on and continue ministry.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good.
As a single woman, I will say this though, as a single woman, some of the challenges that I face, because I wrote that in my notes, is being in positions at churches where married pastors would come on to me, and I got to go out and preach in their pulpit. Very dangerous for a prophetess, right? I had, married men that would disrespect me, if you would, by touching inappropriately, things of that nature, wanting me to stay in their office before going out, supposedly to pray. And I'm a worshiper. Like, I was born to worship. That's my tribe. And so for me, it was like, you're taking me away from who I am, a part of who I am, because I need to be out there. Like, and but because their motives were wrong, they would almost I would almost sometimes feel trapped. And
Mm.
so I learned through those early years to always have someone with me
Right.
as a female, um, and that would cut back on some of that. But that was one of the challenges that I had in my notes that I really wanted to mention, that female women, women, we go through that a
Right.
lot.
Right. No, and I can respect that. That you don't want to destroy the church and try to talk about all the things that happen behind the scenes and in those closed doors and things like that. But and it don't have to be a female, and not to the touching and as much, but it's just trying to pull a person into that circle. So
Mhm.
if you're not about that, and you're coming in there and you're about praising God and worshiping God and
Yes.
being real to God, and then you're sitting in the back room and it's like, what in the world? What are y'all talking about? They're like, this is crazy, and you it's really because it's like we put one show on out there in the pulpit, and then when you get in the back is a
Mhm.
whole different thing. So one of the things that and my wife, if she's still in here, she remember me saying, I said, if you ever want to know if the pastor is right, if he's telling the truth, look at his wife. Because if
Yep.
his wife's sitting in the front pew with her hands crossed and her lips all turned up, he lying big time. So I said, just look at the wife and see what the wife is doing, and that'll let you know if pastor's doing right, because you talking that right here, but when you get home, you're a whole different person,
Mhm.
and it exposes itself. It will be exposed.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to give all the ministry secrets out, but that is one of them. Definitely look at the wife and see, and then that was definitely like, oh boy, because
Mhm.
I pastored in West Virginia.
Okay.
And the church I had, it was a missionary Baptist church, is what my first church, the pastor, were, and we had a big issue with women ministers. That was the big thing. So and the big stand, the line was drawn in the sand. Can a woman pastor? Can a woman
Mhm.
minister? Could this and that? Matter of fact, I had one say, only way a woman would be in my pulpit if she was cleaning it. And I was like, wow, that's crazy to talk that way. But I'm like, are you reading the word of God? Because there's prophetess in the Bible, that the first person to ever spread the gospel, the good news that Jesus Christ is alive, was a
Yeah.
woman. Are you not reading the word? Are you missing this thing? And so that's sent me on my way, because it was one of
Mhm.
those where you had to make a choice. You had to make a choice if you're going to stay under this type of ministry. You got to conform, and that was one of my last sermon I preached in that church was put up or shut up. And that was the whole thing. So I said, if you're not going to do the right thing, then don't say nothing. And that was
Mhm.
how I walked out the door. And it was very unfortunate. I can remember that, but it's just the fact that it's sad that we have to go through that, because
Mhm.
all you're really trying to do is serve God.
That's
And then to have someone tell you that you can't do it because you're a female, or you're
right.
male, or
Mhm.
you're black, or you're white, or you're this, or you're
Mhm.
that. And it's like, I'm just a servant. And who are you to say who God called to
Exactly.
do anything? So, and the only one that knows, no different than my first question when I was in ministry training, was name one person you know is saved. That was my first question. Name one person you know is saved. And you're sitting there looking around and start thinking all these people, and it's like the only person you know is yourself, because everybody else you can say,
Good.
you can look at their fruit and all of that, but the only one you know is yourself. And I was like, okay, and I can go with that, and that's all I
Mhm.
have to worry about, really. I worry about the souls, but the only one I can actually say is me, because I can't, we can put on shows and we can act it, but the
Mhm.
Lord knows exactly, like you say, he knows exactly what's going on. So we're going to take a quick break. I appreciate it, because I want you to tell me a little bit more. I really want you to tell me about the book some. So, would you say buy the book and then I'll know about the book, right? That's it. Yeah. So we're going to sell this book. But we're gonna do one more quick break. We're gonna recognize the people, and then we're almost going into the after show, because we're right there at that time. So let me get this up real quick, and then we'll be right back. An Iron Shopper and Iron Show. All right, we're back to the Iron Sharpening Iron show, and got my guest, Dr. Carla, and we got many people out there, and they're in here, and the chat was moving. So, uh, yes, buy the book. That's what it says. It's a buy the book. So we got to buy the book. So give us a quick synopsis of the book itself. What is I know the title, but what would I get if I opened up that book?
Well, you're going to get, let's see, the book is about a little bit of my experience mixed in with the word of God, mixed in with wisdom. In short.
That's it.
In short, that's it. Like, okay. That's it. So I talk about some of my pitfalls that I made because I have been married more than once. And so I talk about some of the red flags that we tend to overlook as women. I talk about how we should listen to ourselves, listen to our kids and what they're saying concerning our mates. It's so much. I talk about when you're trying to get into a place of moving from dating to marriage, and how there are things that you see, but you're willing to overlook them, especially depending on the age, because you want to be married, because you're saved, and you don't want to go to. Okay, so you know, so I better do this because I've been raised up on the scripture that tells me if I don't, I'm gonna burn.
Right.
So you get some of that. You get some practical wisdom. My last, and I wish I had the book in front of me, but my last chapter is about, it's about those that are narcissists and identifying narcissists. The chapter before that, it talks about being in lust or being in love.
Right. Okay.
Because we often mistake lust for love. And then I took about 50 people and I interviewed them that had been married for over it. I think the requirement was definitely over 10 years. And I took what they had, I gave them about 7 answers, and I took their answers and put them in the book. And then I evaluated them to determine what actually makes a marriage. What is it that holds a marriage together? And that's where you get the pearls in the back of the book, and the 5 C's to marriage. And so I incorporate them together because what I found was so interesting in doing that is that no one said love.
Right.
Out of all 50 couples, no one said love.
Love.
And what I come to find out is that love is a choice that we make every day.
Right. Okay.
It doesn't happen to hold the marriage together.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
That's amazing that you're saying that, and we're getting ready to go into the after show. I'm gonna drop this note before we go real quick to the after show. Can you hang with us for the after show?
Yes.
Okay. So the question I always ask people when they say they're in love, and back in my times of doing marriage counseling and things like that, but it was like, we're in love. I was like, so do you love her? Yes, I love her. Yes, I love her, or vice versa. Yep. I said, now here's the question: do you like her? Not so much do you love her, but do you like her? Is this a person that you're willing to show to your friends? This is a person you're willing to hang out with. This is a person, I like being around this person. And if you can't honestly say, I like being with that person, not so much I love them, because the Lord told me to love them, or God told me to love them. I have, yes, okay, but do you like them? Because that to me was a deeper, and that's my thing, is like, I like my wife. So I went through a divorce. So I remarried and all. And I felt in the ministry wise that I failed God because I couldn't hold my marriage together. I couldn't hold it. So that was one of my biggest challenges of getting back into the ministry. So we're going to go into the after show. So we're going to take a quick break. And we're going to go into the after show. So give me one break, and we're going to be right back. All right. Here we go.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You know the show. You know that means Walt's on the stage. What's up,
Exactly.
my man? How you doing,
sir?
Walt?
Dr.
What's up,
Carla,
what's
how
up?
are you? Nice to meet you.
Good. Nice to meet you also.
Pleasure. So I'm not sure where our ages are, but our stories are very similar as far as location, schools, and
Wow.
hangouts. Yeah, for sure. So I grew up I was born in DC, grew up in PG County before it was Prince George's County.
Wow.
And lived, because it was PG County back then. It was PG County.
Okay.
It was on the schools, right? It was on the
Right.
bus, PG
Right.
County.
Got you.
So once I graduated in '81, moved back to DC. But I grew up in Sea Pleasant.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got a few friends out at Roosevelt and out in that area. So I'm sure if we had a conversation long enough, we'd know some of the same people. So great conversation as usual, Big Jack. Dr. Carla, appreciate you sharing. And,
Thank you.
God knows best, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what's up. So, Walt, you probably would listen to some of it in
Yes,
the back.
I was.
And,
I was.
So, Dr. Carla, as she was talking, I'm like, man, we probably, like you said, crossed paths 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I grew up, of course, we already said it, but that's the whole thing. I mean, this is like great. I mean, it's just amazing when you sit there and you're talking to a person and it's like, okay, this is you got so many of the same traits and the same this is the same that. So that's amazing. So truly appreciate it. So Walt, what did you pick up from the show so far? What have you heard?
Well, let me start with I didn't have any boundaries because I chased the go-go bands all across the DMV. So my raggedy car even had DC tags on it because there it is. But hey man, great story. It's just like a survivor. Here you are. I mean, you have a heck of a testimony. So and you've been tested by fire more than once. Just listening in. So I'm impressed. I mean, it's just Jack, man. I don't know who your producer is and where you get these guests from, man. But every time I tune in, I'm learning an awful lot, man. Right. And I realize that I haven't been through as much as I thought I'd been through. You know what I mean?
That is the part we get though.
Yeah,
like,
man.
You think you're like, I'm telling my story,
man,
then they're like, oh man, let me put over this corner here.
Yeah, man. And it goes back to, if people put their, you talk about everybody throwing their problems in the middle of the floor. I mean, I'd fight hard to get mine back. Give me mine right back. I'll take them. I can deal with them. I know what they are. I can deal with them. So, yeah, this is great. Hey, Bill, Jack, you got a little nervous when she said she went up north to the country, man.
I ain't know how far she went. I said, don't call my area country.
Oh man, well, actually, it was.
Yeah, I know. You call it country too.
Yeah, I'm just saying, man.
Like why leave here and come up to the country?
Yeah, man. I leave good warm weather to head up to the country where it's still snowing. So
good.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah.
So this Dr. Carla was a recommendation from Snapback Trishana. So
okay.
And I'm so glad. So Dr. Carla is trying to get up to what you say 500 subscribers.
500.
500. Okay. So if you have not went over to Dr. Or I would say it should be River of Life mentioned. I see it's in the chat. So if you could drop that link for River of Life, if you don't mind, please, and thank you. And if you haven't been over there, go over there and hit River of Life Ministries and definitely subscribe and look and support their channel, support River of Life Ministries as far as a YouTube channel and help Dr. Carla get up to 500. That's not even a huge number. But I remember my number was 50 because I just wanted to be live. Yeah. That's all I wanted to be was live. I want to go live and I need to go. So, and Dr. Carla has a book, Walt. So she has a book. So you think you're equally yoked.
Yeah, I was just looking for it, and maybe I wasn't sure if I had the right name, but I will, I will get it. So you said it's an audio book as well, correct?
I believe it is, yes.
So if it's on Amazon, does that mean it's on Audible?
It should be.
Okay, I'll check it out. Yeah, for sure.
So
Well, great title.
for
Great
those
title.
right there, that's exactly what the cover of the book looks like.
Okay.
We got it up on the
Great
the
cover.
screen so we can see it. So
Great cover.
that's what it looks like, and it is on Amazon, and you can go in and purchase the book.
Okay.
And I'm waiting for the movie. I'm telling you that. I'm waiting
Yeah.
for the movie.
Absolutely. Did
So,
you
Dr.
design the cover?
I did.
That's nice. That's a nice
Thank you
piece
so
of
much.
artwork. Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
very nice.
I went through a publisher and ended up doing it myself.
Oh, well, okay.
Oh.
Well, your baby, you knew what you wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you knew what you wanted. So, yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. Now, so what's the process of writing a book? I know a lot of people, because you said you went through a publisher. Did you go through the Amazon publishing, or did you
No,
have
I went through a Christian publishing company, but that I wouldn't do that again. I would do self-publishing.
Okay.
Yeah. The process for me was fairly easy because another funny story, right? So I was in college to get my master's in divinity and my doctorate in theology, and I didn't want to do a thesis. I didn't want to deal with all of that. So
how did that work out for you?
So they challenged me to write a book. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Okay.
You
Right.
know. And so I ended up writing this book.
Okay.
And I did a poor man's copyright, put it up, and I never took it out again until the pandemic. During the pandemic. And people were asking me to edit their book. It was like I was getting people asking me to edit different things. And then one day the Lord said, why are you doing that? I gave you a book.
Yeah.
I literally had put that thing away. Like I had to go find it.
Wow.
And he chastised me, you know? And so I pulled it out and I began working on it to bring it up to par. My whole thing was it wasn't the end that I wanted. And so I never wanted to publish it because somehow I thought that my end should be that I become equally yoked.
So once you got out of the way,
that's exactly how it works.
so once you got out of the way, you realize that we're all in search of, and we're in learning and not finished products, right? I mean, as if we're alive, we are growing, right? Is that the message?
That's the
All
message.
All right, look, I receive it. So now, Dr. Martin, you're gonna have to help me on two things. You have to explain to me and some of the people that's in the chat, because some of them are way smarter than me. What is the poor man's copyright? Did you say poor man's copyright?
Yes, and let me tell y'all what that is, okay? That means you put your manuscript into an envelope, you seal it up, you put it into another envelope, seal it up, make it out to yourself on both envelopes, like you're mailing it to yourself, and then you stick it somewhere.
Okay.
And that's it. Nobody. So if someone gets it, they can't. Well, hopefully no one would. They can't use it.
Okay. All right. So now, did you? And I'm gonna ask, did you take it to like the post office to put a stamp on it, or
mail it to yourself,
at least get the actual date and all that on it, right?
Postmark. It has to be
postmark.
Right?
I postmarked it to myself.
There you go.
And then put it up, and yeah.
So the only reason I threw that in there because I would have just got 2 envelopes and put it in my closet and be like,
hey, I would have said no, Jack. No, Jack. So I have 2 questions for you, if you don't mind. And please, I apologize. I got in about 7:02, so I apologize if I missed this. Where did you go to college, if you don't mind sharing that? And where is your church located? Where's River of Life Ministries located?
Okay, so I actually went to University of Maryland.
Okay.
I got my bachelor's in family counseling there, and then I went to Breakthrough Bible College
Okay.
for my master's and my doctorate. And we are now virtual. We are completely virtual.
Completely virtual. Okay, as is a lot of houses of worship, and I got to tell you, I'm impressed because the Washington School of Secretaries, right? Who doesn't have a relative that went there, and then you said you got a GED, and then here you are, didn't want to do your thesis, and so hey, write a book. Okay, I'll write a book. I mean, I'm impressed. I mean, so that's resilient. I mean, that's big, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who are probably, because I know a lot of people who are one thesis away from being a doctor, but they didn't. They got to get through that. That's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know that the book was an option. So again, I'm learning something. So that was pretty cool. So yeah,
I'm very grateful to them to allow me to do that. I didn't
know
you
killed two birds,
but it
killed
worked out.
2 birds with 1 stone. I mean, so once you got out the way, God said, okay, you already got a book. Let's make it happen. So good for you. Good for you. Wow. Yeah, I'm waiting on Big Jack to write a book too. So
I said, I'm waiting for the movie. So do you find it challenging ministering online as far as using online ministry? Is that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me tell you why, though.
Mm-hmm.
Remember I said I was assaulted? And when I came to the Lord and I accepted my call, one of the things that I promised the Lord is that if he completely healed my hands, that I would use them for healing.
Okay.
And so because he did that, you could never look at my hands and tell they were the way they were. I miss not being able to lay hands on people. I miss not
in the good way. In the good way.
Good way, because
let's clear that up.
I don't want to lay hands in the other way. Okay.
I'm just saying.
You gotta get that part straight.
Everyone has potential, right?
Yes. So I miss that. I miss the hugs. I miss the love. I miss the deliverance. I love seeing people delivered. So yeah, that's my challenge.
Okay. But I mean, anything's possible down the road, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I can imagine. So because I can see exactly what you're saying, because the fact is, like I say, you're not, because you could be in a mega church and you could be right there and miss all of that, because you're right there and you see so many people, but you're not, you never get to meet the pastor. You never get to, because it's just so many people. So it doesn't have to be online that you don't get that same connection. It's just that, and that's why it's important to have your own personal relationship with God, with Christ, because of the fact that there's going to be times that you're not going to have that person or have someone to physically touch you or physically hold your hand and physically walk you through, or like you say, lay hands on. And even if you're laying hands in the spiritual way, everybody don't receive that, because it was funny. I was in a church once, and there was a person in there that came up for prayer, and they had been suffering from migraines. And the Lord put it on my spirit to pray for them. So, and I'm at the pulpit, I'm standing right in front of the podium, and there's a bottle of olive oil right there. So they've already anointed the oil and all that. So I reach in, get the oil, because the scriptures say anoint, with oil, and I lay hands on them. And man, they exploded after the service. We in the back room, like, we don't use oil. Like, what is it there for? Why would you even put it there? So this is like a trophy, like show, like a statue. What is it there for? If you're not going to use it, why even have it here? That just don't make sense to me. But so they're like, we don't do that. I said, are you not reading the same Bible? What are you missing? It says it's almost like a formula that says, if there's someone sick among you, anoint him with. It says that, and you say don't do it. Now I understand why the young ladies up here were suffering from migraines when you had an opportunity to, but
Wow.
so yeah. So but I can imagine that. So now are you in your
I'm in my early 60s, and so technology was not what I was trying to do.
Mm,
Learning technology, learning, how to use StreamYard
yeah.
and how to go on Zoom and how to teach, because I told you I have an accredited Bible college, and so I was used to teaching in person, and now I had to figure out, well, how do I still do this by setting up a board? Can they see? Are they seeing well? Like, am I going to have the same experience spiritually? I had to cut one of my classes out because that class was about getting into the atmosphere and in the apostolic prophetic atmosphere. And I couldn't do that without being in person.
Mm.
So I had to eliminate that class.
wow, yeah, that's
I got it now, though. I know how to get on
You,
StreamYard.
you don't lie.
Do.
We have action, okay? We got live action here.
I got a real microphone.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
yeah. Look, she on now. We on it. Yes.
So
That's
let me ask
great.
you this: the book,
Mhm.
and please forgive me if I am out of order here. Would it be possible for you to read the foreword or the introduction?
I would have to first get
If
the
you
book. If you
okay,
excuse me, I could do that as soon as I find the book and get it.
I mean, Jack, it's your show. I would be fine. My thing is, I know you were talking about the book, and we saw the cover, but if I'm going to Amazon, the first thing I'm going to read is what? The introduction or the foreword, or if I'm going to get a sample, and if not, maybe next, and we'll just get it. I mean, it's okay. And I apologize for putting you on the spot like that, but I'm just like, I'm always fascinated when I get to hear an author read their book, their introduction, but that's pretty cool. There we go.
I don't think you can see it. I don't know if you can see it.
No, I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But it is on the back of the book. So if you go to Amazon, you can definitely read.
I will have the book. I will get that when we get offline, because
just know it's in the back on the back cover of the book. This is what's there. So but and it's no problem. I'm just amazed, as you said, Walt, and Dr. Carly, you without a doubt the steps that you have taken to get to the doctorate level. Most people, when you say I have a GED and then say I'm a doctor, it's like, wow, those two, and then, like I say, not only that, I wrote a book, and it's like, wow. And then, I don't know what you was doing, but you kept saying you was making some money, making some paper. So I'm like, wait a minute.
Right now.
So I know you ain't shared all of it, but it's okay. You don't have to share it all. It's not a tell all. Like, buy the book, it might be in there. So that's what it's all about. But at the same time, I believe as in the ministry, because of what you've been sharing with me, that if you're saying these same things across the pulpit, and even if online, that your congregation is definitely getting real talk. They're getting a real person that's telling them, not so much you can make it, but you can make it because I made it. I'm a survivor. If I can do it, if God can call me, if God can do this for me, then I know everybody else out there can do it. And I don't know, and like I said, I don't know. I never seen your parents and things like that, but I don't know if you got, because you made the comment earlier that you was dark skinned. I was like, I don't know, you might be darker than your parents, but you're not. I don't think you're on the dark skin side. So it's like, yeah. But
they used to say that, and I'm like, but I'm not really dark. I know people darker, but
yeah. So it's just especially in the DMV area where we was growing up, but. That's it's amazing. So do you get a lot of I guess engagements now that you're ministering online? Do other churches call you to speak at their churches and things like that in the physical?
No, I don't actually. I don't know a lot of people in this area because as soon as we got here, I kind of didn't want to do ministry. So So I definitely stayed to myself for a while. And then I opened up a church in Clearwater. And so I got to meet, one or two pastors. The thing that really kind of got me here is being a woman. The men that I would meet that were also apostles, they would want me to come under them as their daughter, as a daughter. And, I'm humbled to the point where, like, I'm always amazed at God. I'm at awe when He gives me teachings and series. Like, I'm at complete awe, the same as I was when we were in a building, and He would, just show up so powerfully. So to have these men kind of try to push that down, that really kind of turned me away from trying to fellowship with other pastors here.
Right. Yeah, that could be like I told you before, that was one of our biggest issues was not respecting the calling, not respecting, God called this person to minister and we'll pick one scripture and say, this is the reason why they can't do it, and bypass the 1,000 scriptures that say they can do it. It's like, what about this one over here? What about this one over here? And it's like, yeah, but it says right here. And that's the one that you're going to stick with all the way. And I'm
picking and choosing.
Yeah. And that's it. And we get, so for me to stand in front of anyone and say, God didn't call you, it would be foolishness of all of us, because you don't know. No different than say God didn't save you, or you're not saved. Like, you don't know what the plan is and what the mission is and what God has for you. You think you know, and even as you said, your book on you, so you think, or are you're equally yoked, So because of that, and that's what I meant to say, and I know I'm glad it came back, and thank you, Lord. What does it mean to be yoked, equally yoked or unequally yoked? What does that mean? I'm speaking and I'm talking for those who might not understand what the yoke mean. What does that mean?
So coming up in ministry, we were always taught that to be equally yoked meant that you had to be in relationship or married to someone that was saved, right? That's as simple as it was. And if you did not do that, then you were not going to be equally yoked. But what I found out in the years and having, had marriage and divorce and remarriage, it's more about partnership. It's more about operating as a team, being not just equally yoked in believing that there is a God, but also believing in deliverance. Believing in, healing, believing in the same things across the board, like not even just in
the church, right?
But in other ways as well. And when you have that person, oh my goodness, then you can find some balance. A lot of times we say, well, opposites attract, and so therefore they should make balance. That's not always true. It could be a very bad explosion when opposites come together. So for me, it really, I look at partnership and having the same core values. I talk about this a lot. My parents were very strict, as I said, especially my father. He worked on a military base, and I don't know, he was a country man. He was just strict. And I couldn't appreciate it because I looked at them as being abusive. All my life, they were just abusive. And now, just in the near recent, I could really see how they were making me into the apostle I was already called to be.
All right.
The discipline, the order, the do the right thing no matter what.
For the right reason. The right thing for the right reason. Yeah.
Doing good and not evil. Be honest. Let your word be your bond. Those core things. Well, if you marry someone that did not go through that type of training,
Right.
you're gonna have a problem.
And let's be clear, people change, but not much. So
Right.
your character traits are your character traits. I mean,
Exactly.
it takes a lot of work to change your character traits. I mean, those we are what we are.
Yeah.
And I think I'm sure you preach this, you know, like, and as far as being equally yoked, I would rather someone be who they are than to pretend to be someone they're not, because they can't sustain that. No one can sustain that. And in a relationship, you need sustainability. And so it's going to show if you're not on the same page of music, so to speak. And it's going to catch up. You can't sustain it. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, so that book is, I've already got a few people I'm going to gift it to. Hope I can get a couple signed from you. And
the thing about the book is a lot of couples have gone through the book together.
Yeah.
Though it's written from a woman's perspective, I tried to also cover some of the things that I believe men go through as well. You know? So
yeah, well, and some of it is different too, because you're a woman but you're a woman of God. So that spiritual and the inspiration from God to help you put in some of those things, like you say, and that's where a lot of people get caught up in, where I ain't listening to no woman. A woman can't tell me nothing, this and that and that. That's foolishness, because my mom is in that chat and she can say something to me right now, and I'll be yes ma'am and moving on. So you already know. Look, she commented as soon as I said that. But you already know. Yeah, but it's just the fact that a lot of people don't. They got their minds stuck on it, and it's like you can't tell me anything. And because of that, you're missing out on a lot of blessings, because you're like, you won't listen. And the sad part is, that same woman's telling you don't walk out in the street because there's a truck coming. Well, ain't no woman telling me nothing. And you get ran over by a truck. And it's like, well, why you ain't saying that? I've been saying it. You ain't listening. You're not listening to me. You're so stuck in your ways that you can't hear what I'm saying. Go ahead, Walt.
To that point, a lot of people who say that in my experience has been a lot of people who say that, the way I snap them out of it is like, wait a minute. What about your mother? What about your sister, your daughter? Oh, no, that's different. What's different? Because if someone was saying that to your daughter, sister, mother, you'd be ready to fight.
Oh, yeah.
So what are you saying? And then I'm like, so then you have to ask yourself, if people have a reaction like that, what are they really dealing with that hasn't been addressed inside? What do they see? Because power is not about bullying people, right? I mean, if you have control of yourself, that's the greatest power that you can have, because you don't have to. An intelligent person can hear a thought, hear an idea, and not necessarily accept it. But what you're saying, Dr. Carla, is a lot of people don't even want to hear it. It's like, no, it's just because this is the way it's always been. This is the way it's going to be, which I think is ridiculous. And that's just my humble opinion, from the high school graduate section of the talk show. But that's just my opinion. I'm like, where are you getting that from? And then if you are really on your game and you are really secure in your stance, you shouldn't have a problem with it being challenged. You should be able to have a conversation. Matter of fact, and that goes from the Bible to the Quran to anything. It's like, show me, because I think we get caught up in truth, but not facts, because truth is subjective, depending on where you are in your walk. So if people hear you say my truth, okay, but facts are still facts. You interpret it this way, and again, you and the gentleman that you had this problem with are talking about the same Bible, right? So that's
the biggest problem, right?
Yeah, it's the same Bible. So I mean, so if you're doing this inside the church, I'm sitting in the congregation saying, what am I saying in the congregation? You know, yeah. So I mean, it's because again, it's people. You still talking about people, right?
And I was about to say,
Right.
especially when you're talking about those who are young in the ministry, because
Yeah.
young in the ministry, down is just confused. As Dr. Carla said, when she was young in age and was going to New Jersey, it was like I had way more questions than I had answers. So now I'm just confused. I'm confused in here. So, Dr. Carla, tell us when do you have service? What times is your service? And
So we, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it.
Oh,
When is your service?
So we have service on Zoom at, we have our gathering service on Zoom at 11 o'clock. And then I go live around 12:15. And so right now that's kind of what we're doing. And we have a life study, what I call life study on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. And we have global prayer on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock on our conference line.
Okay. And that first one is Sundays. I'm taking
Sunday,
Sundays.
yes, Sundays.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Sundays
Okay.
at 11, Tuesdays at 8, and Thursdays at 8.
Okay. And so if I went to your channel now, I will be able to see those times or whatever that you
I
have.
hope so.
I love her, man.
I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just saying. Because I know I know we put the link down in there. So we got the link in there. And B, thank you for putting the link down there. But I just want to make sure that anyone click your link, they're going to see those times and all that you're actually having services, and you have several services, and we're going to get you. Hopefully, we're going to get you to that 500 mark that you're looking to get to. So, like I say, that's not a hard goal, but we definitely get you to that mark, and it's definitely been a pleasure to have you here on the show, because we're coming as you was talking. I'm like, man. We didn't walk the same path. I'm from DMV, except for living in Tampa, but I played golf in Tampa, so I'll claim it for a brief moment. I played golf out there, but other than living in Florida, I'm like, dang,
man, I'm like,
wow. My mom went to the Washington School for Secretary.
So did my cousin. Yeah,
I think you said you went work for the Department of Defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was like, man, that's real close too. So I'm like, man. So that's what's up. So now I'm gonna ask you this: if a person was trying to get into the ministry, so they said they had the calling, that they were called and they came to you, what advice would you give them if a person came to you? I'm gonna even share with this advice that you wish someone would have told you. And I know you had some good spiritual leaders, but what's that advice that, man, I wish somebody would have said this to me?
I think the thing that I would tell them most importantly is just to make sure of your calling. Make sure of what God says to you versus what others have prophesied over you. That's, I mean, I like to keep it to the point, simple.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
Sorry,
you
Jack.
said the same thing. No,
go ahead. Go ahead, man.
Because I was like,
I mean, she resisted
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning, right? And she said she resisted, and you questioned, and and your pastor questioned you. So God makes mistakes now. So what I'm saying is, how, not me, does a person know that it's their call? I mean, like you just said, I mean, they have to know, but how? How did you know? What was your aha moment, your real aha moment? Like when you felt confident that no one could question what you were about to do, the journey you were about to take, because there has to be a level of confidence, because if you don't believe it, I'm not going to believe it. So at what point, what happened for you to say, I know you questioned yourself, but then you say, wait a minute, I got this. Give me that part.
Well, to be honest, after you hear it a couple of times, you can't help but submit to it.
Okay.
I was consecrated like 3 times,
Okay.
But I think what I would also tell them is that if you really want to know that you're called, step out into the call, step out into it, because if you're really called, you're gonna show up, and God's gonna show up, And so I would encourage them to not run, but to make sure that it's God that's calling them, that it's not something that they want to do within themselves because they think that it's elaborate or something, or make sure that it's God. And where's your support?
So that's my next question.
Where's your support? Do you have support?
Well, what was your support like? Because you were another person before you got there. So, and I'm just saying this from a person who's looking to head that way, to changing their lives and get a calling. So now your friends or your old friends, they have to take a look at themselves because you've changed. And sometimes that comes out as a negative vibe, as opposed to the support that you think you would get from the people who love you. Am I right or wrong? Because they're still living in that, I'm not going to say mess, but that life that you're walking away from, walking towards the ministry. And then they have to take a hard look at themselves. Oh, she thinks she's better than us. She thinks she's different. She's changed. What's so special about her? Oh, she's judging me now. And that may not be the case. That may just be them projecting negativity from their own insecurities. Is that your question, Jack?
The how was going to be my question. So
okay, I'm sorry, man, but this one I always like to hear this one because I'm like, how did you know? Because I have a lot of friends who have turned their lives around, and they always say, man, you never question my commitment, and I'm like, bro, I just see a difference in you. I just see something different in you. So how did it work for you?
But even that right there, I mean, not taking it from you, Dr. Colin, but the scripture tell you, you'll know a tree by the fruit that it bears.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? When you change, that change that comes, and it's almost like, you're walking down that road and you was doing, I remember when I was in school, I was in college and I was so confused. I didn't even go home for break. I was probably the only one on campus because everybody else went home for break, and I'm sitting there tossed and turned between my mind and trying to figure out what are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're not doing it. And I believe that's when the Lord called me into the ministry, even though I wasn't in the church. I wasn't, and it's like, but it was more, I have more for you to do. I have more than what you're doing. I have more for you to do. And my next step was going into the military. That was right after I left college, went straight in the military. And then that's when the confirmation came and I actually got in the ministry, if you want to look at it that way. But prior to that was the wake up, the get up out of the ashes, get on your feet and stop moping around and being all sad for yourself. Get yourself together, But a lot of people got good morals, and I've said that before. So a lot of people, but I tell people, and I know Dr. Colin, you didn't say hell, I'm gonna say it, but I say that a lot of people say that I say your morals will keep you out of jail, but only the blood of Jesus is going to keep you out of hell. And that was the whole thing. I would always say that. So, and I still stick with that too. So I needed to make a change. I had to get some things in my life, but I was still confused even going in the military. So not taking away from Dr. Colin, your answer, I was just more, I remember when I was on that road, that fork in the road, trying to figure out which way to go. And it's so easy to take the left when you need to go right because they're both right there. And it's like, this one's going to be, it's that unknown mission, that unknown, why me? Why would I get up in front of people and do anything? Why would anyone listen to me and this and that? But they're not really listening to you. So it's like they're listening to me. You're just the one speaking. And that's where, it's like the conviction should be, all you have to do is open your mouth and I'll put everything in and deliver it. You just need to be the vessel that I'm using right now, and that's how I looked at it. I was just a vessel being used and it got the message across. And I was able to tell stories in the pulpit. And this is like I'm on the show, but I could tell a story. I was always full of stories because I would try to break it down in the layman's terms. I would break it down to, if I was talking to, a kid or whatever, and make it so plain that it's like, oh, well, why nobody said that before? They've been saying it before, but they've been saying thou and dust and this and this. And I couldn't understand it, but now you done broke it down and I fully understand what you're saying. So that's how I always try to come across. But again, Dr. Carla, this your show. So, I mean, your time. So go ahead, please.
No, there was several years. I mean, there was 10 to 12 years between the time that I got my life together, you know,
Okay.
that God kind of just snatched me out of the world.
Mhm.
And when I actually accepted my call, there was
Okay.
a long period. Like I had been sitting under great ministry. I was being poured into. I was being taught the word of God. And, you know, even though I knew that God was calling me to something greater, like I said, I wasn't rushing to get there.
Right.
So when the time did happen where it all connected for me, I want to say really and truly at my consecration. That's when it's like you can't run away from this anymore.
Right. Right.
This is it right here. Because I had
Right.
bishops and apostles and prophets, and we had a presbytery team, and I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome. And I mean, I had been in front of Miles Monroe. I had been in
Oh,
front of
wow.
some big names,
Okay.
that, you know, Peter Wagner. I mean, people that had laid hands on me and prophesied over me. But I don't think it really became Rhema until at my consecration when when they actually laid hands and poured that oil. Like there was no, okay, you know, no, they poured the oil. And
You need a Big Jack.
and so I can remember my robe just being it was at that moment that I really realized, like, you can't turn away.
It's not a game anymore. This
Yeah.
is serious business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
called
Well,
you.
you keep running, it's like Groundhog Day.
Hey.
Go out, he come back like, wait a minute, I just did this again. You go out, come back, the same thing over and over and
But
over.
we all, you know, like maybe you ran from ministry, but you know, the layman like myself, you know, there was a time in my life where I just ran from it too. You know, not being a preacher or calling, but just you know right from wrong. You do have your morals, your values, your principles, you know, but you just insist on doing it your way, you know. And you just be like, man, what in the world? And I just remember for me, I don't even remember what happened, but it was the worst thing that happened in my life at that time, at like 14 years old, 15 years old. And I asked my father, Walter C. Jernigan Jr., and I said, man, why did this have to happen to me? And he looked at me and he said, who in the H are you? Like, and I'm like, whoa, man, I'm looking for some comfort here, you know? He said, let me tell you something, man. He said, people go through stuff every day. He said, and on top of that, you have my name. So if you can't handle this, you need to change your name until you get yourself together. And it just kind of stuck with me, you know? And he said, you keep looking outside for answers. You need to look in yourself and look up. And, you know, he was a Marine, tough guy, all that, you know, but he was, you know, in church every Sunday, you know? And I mean, he would give at the same time, he get a trustee board and all them, you know, the business all the time. But he was still in church and he was supporting his church and he believed. And he just always told me, you know, he said, as a man, you can't do this by yourself.
Right.
You're going to have, you know, and you need that. So it kind of stuck with me, you know. So as I go through life now, and Big Jack and I have these conversations, it's like, you don't have to walk around and say you're this person. Like you say, Jack, the fruits of your labor, how you treat people, what you do, you know, when nobody's watching, how you carry yourself. And that's a big deal. So everybody, not just you guys in the ministry, the people that you're talking to, hey, we've been running from you. You know what I mean? And your advice. So, and your guidance. So, you know, we all have to, like you said, Jack, how many people do you know who say? I think you said that, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Name, let's say name, yeah.
I can only account for myself. That's it.
And I think a lot of it, Walt, even with you making it, and it's good comments, but it's a lot of people have been hurt by the church.
Sure.
They've been hurt. They've been hurt by, you know, I would say false ministers, false this and that, false motives. Like even Dr. Carla said, you know, yeah, let me pray for you. Like you don't have to put your hands all over me to
Over
pray
me.
for me. It's and it's like, so it makes you confused to a point,
Right.
even when you are a called person of God, that you're like, is this what it's all about? Because especially when you're a young minister, and I remember being in the back. So it's like you're here and you're ministering at this church, and we're in the back, talking, and I'm like, is this what it's all about? Because if this is what it's about, I'm not about this life. I mean, this is like it was before I was in the church. I don't want that.
It's worse. It's
Yeah,
worse.
yeah.
It can be
Yeah.
worse because your expectations are much higher.
100%.
So but here's the thing, people will always disappoint you. So you should never be, and people tell me this, Jackie, you know this all the time. People say, man, you got too much faith in mankind. But my thing is, we all know right from wrong. God gave us he gives us discernment, right? We have common sense. So if you're chasing a person instead of chasing your spirituality, that's a problem. And that's the thing. And in this world of, and I'm, clicks and likes and shares, sometimes people are looking for spirituality in all the wrong places. I'm saying, as far as it still comes from within.
Yeah.
It still comes from within, and you still can only trust a man, a woman to do the right thing as far as they can do the right thing. I mean, you still, even if a person is just totally off message, you still know enough about right and wrong as an adult. If you are a free thinking adult, that you can kind of, when this thing is going left, and you be like, I'm hanging with him because he's this nice guy, or he says these nice things to me, or she says these nice things to me. When something just is off in the person. And like you just said, Dr. Carla, earlier, you knew that it was off. And Jack, what you said about, just look at the wife, just look at the first lady. Yeah, she give you that side. She giving them that side eye, man. And I'm sitting over there talking about, man, this jackleg is in trouble. Yeah. So,
and then you got, and go ahead, Dr. Carla.
Go ahead, Dr. Carla. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I was really very, very blessed because I did grow up in a Christian home. My family is small. There was only like 12 of us all together. So when you have that small of a family and everybody's in church, I was the outcast. I was the one that took the other path.
Right.
The right path. And so when I did come around, it's like when I stopped drinking, everybody stopped drinking.
That was my question. There you go. Okay.
My grandparents stopped drinking. Everybody stopped drinking. My grandparents was like, "Oh no, Carla don't drink no more. Nobody's gonna drink."
Right.
And so they were very supportive of my journey. When I went to open my first church, they questioned like, "What you doing?" But they were there on the opening. So my first sermon, they were there. My first AA meeting, they were there. So it's really good when you have that support. And I served in ministry. See, some of these people want to get a calling and then they just want to jump. They haven't served. I served. I was a lay minister, but I also served. And I can remember thinking like, man, this is hard work. Even as a lay minister, it was hard because the expectations that were placed upon us was even that it was the same as if we were full-blown ministers. And so we didn't have we still had the same, we had to be responsible and accountable. And so those are some of the things that, back to your question again, if someone came to me, those would be some of the dialogue that I would have with them. Who have you served under? Who is your spiritual leader? What pastors have you served with, and what did you do? What did you do there? And what did you learn? What have you learned? Because one of the first things that I recognized early on is that you have to have a love for people in order to pastor people.
That part, yes.
Teacher of people, like you gotta love. It's like being and I was a daycare provider for 15 years. So imagine a daycare provider that don't love kids.
Right,
Right. They don't go together.
Yeah.
So, you know, I found, man, I really love kids. And I didn't like adults too much back then, but I did love kids. And so, you know, you have to really, really make these have to ask yourself these hard questions and be honest with your answers.
Right.
You know, people were kind of strange to me. And so I wasn't that enthused about wanting to pastor over, you know, pastor people.
Right.
And definitely not prophesy to people. Like I wasn't too keen about, you know, the Lord taking me into different areas in their life that they weren't trying to tell nobody.
But about right.
Now I have to speak to them concerning this area. Like that you got to be prepared to go into ministry.
Yes.
And you know, I'm 5'4". I'm a you know, little short woman, and it's like you amongst these people that are, you know, taller in stature and bigger, have heavier voices. And I remember being prophesied to, you know, your voice is going to change. God's going to, it changes a little bit under the Holy Spirit, but it's still my voice. You're going to know when you go to my channel, right? And so, you know, that never happened. But you got to be willing to stand in adversity.
Yes.
And in the good times and the bad times. Matter of fact, you got to be willing to preach when you don't have a soul to preach to.
100%.
That's the part I'm trying to get to. That right there. Thank you so much. Because everybody thinks now that I have changed my life and now I've gotten my calling, it's easy peasy now. And no, the work is just starting.
No, it's
the work
work.
is just starting. And the problem with betrayal. And I'll use the word betrayal, and I'm using that loosely. The people who turn their backs on you, the problem with, and I'll say that's betrayal to a point, it comes from the people you love and respect. Because a stranger turning his back on you doesn't bother you. But a person who you may have even been giving support to doesn't see your vision. So now all you have to do, I'm just saying as the person coming in, you got to live your life, right? You have to live your life, stand your ground, and people will see that whether you are serious or not. Yeah. And clearly you did the work. Like you said, you did the work. So it's not necessarily, it's going to get tougher. I mean, once you become saved and the world, you get tried more.
Well,
because you know right from wrong, right?
Well, and the scriptures say that anyway. So the fact that there was a time that the enemy dwelled inside of you. You know what I'm saying? That was his vessel. That was his house. You kicked him out because you didn't change partners. He wants to come back. Like, wait a minute. And not only will he come back, he said he gonna bring 7 more stronger than him. So the fight is even more. So that's why, you know, you hear people talk about putting on the whole armor of God and but you got to get ready for war because you really kicked out the enemy. And now the enemy wants back. He wants that land back, and you got to hold that off.
But he doesn't always come with resistance. Sometimes he just comes with, oh, you don't need these people. You can do this. Oh, man, take advantage of this. You got these nice things. You know, oh, come on. What do they don't have what you have? You know, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, so they come at you like that.
It's a battle. It is always a constant. And you're constantly battling because it's just the life. It is the life of, and it's even more when you have a calling. We all have a calling. We're all children of God. So if you look at it that way, but when you are up there in front of people, because like you said, you're held to a whole different standard. So you could cuss all day long. If I say one word, it's like, oh my God, the pastor cussing down. They're like, wait a minute. You look, not only did you push me, because it takes a lot to get me there. Not only did you get me there, but now you're upset because I got there. You pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. Like, oh my God, what was you expecting?
People are seeing things that they expect this pastor, this preacher, to be someone, and they put expectations on them that they know they can't meet themselves. Also, although your responsibilities are there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not, you know, giving you a pass on your responsibilities, but you need to be ministered to. You have problems. You
100%.
you have issues.
Right.
You have weaknesses and insecurities. And people need to understand that. And if people understand that, they can know that you're giving them the word, but you are not. You are, like Jack said, you are the vessel. What did he say? The meditation of my what? Give me that verse, Jack. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my soul,
my heart,
of my heart,
yeah,
be acceptable.
be
in your sight.
acceptable unto you. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is.
Right.
So I had these conversations with people. I'm saying, yeah, so you go to church, but who are you going for, the man or the woman, or are you going for yourself? Because your spirituality is your responsibility, And I mean, and God is everywhere, right? That's the way I was taught. I hope that's true. That's what I believe. And let me say that out loud. I believe that. So God knows my heart. So you can't fake him out. You can't fool him. And I'm saying as a parishioner or as a pastor. As a pastor. You can't fool him. You can't fool him. He knows that he sees it all. He knows it all. So we can't fool. And then you're fooling yourself, so
I tell them, follow me as I follow God, but
there
follow God in me.
There you go.
Because you don't want to follow Carla.
You definitely want to follow Walt.
I'm definitely coming, and I believe, and I'm so thankful that I'm coming into alignment, into perfect alignment with the image of God, but I'm not there yet. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, but closer than I've ever been. I think so. That's a good thing.
That's always good. Sound like the song. Closer walk with thee.
Closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk with thee.
That's it. Closer walk with thee. That's it. I'm trying to get there. I say the money says it best. In God we trust. Everybody else I'm a check.
Everybody else
got a check.
To the left. So you might listen.
That's it.
Call me up and say, "Hey, Apostle, wait a minute."
Yeah. And that's the thing is, and that's Apostle right now, and I'm gonna tell you this, and Dr. Carla, that's what the show is. Iron sharpening iron. I'm needing you to hold me and bring me that your steel to my steel so that I get stronger, you get stronger. And that's what it was all about. But we are at the end of the show, and it's been a blessing. It's been a real blessing. I appreciate you hanging with me in the regular show and hanging with me in the after show. And I see Blessed Crochet is down there. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe she was just in the hospital. So if she is still in the hospital, we're still praying for you and a speedy recovery. Absolutely. And if you're out of the hospital, God bless that you're out of the hospital. But I do remember, if I'm not mistaken, that you were in. But we just want to make sure that, and if you are, whatever your status is, my prayers are still going out to you. B is out there, Lyrics by Nithya. I think she had to leave. But it has been a true blessing. I want to thank my sister, Snapback Trishana, for recommending you, Dr. Carla, and you being on the show. You are now a Hall of Famer. So that means that anytime you want to come back on, and I might reach out to you as a panelist when we do the after show, just different guests. We bring people on. Because and you're from the DMV, that's even more. So you definitely earned all work. You got all creds right now. You in there. So, but I truly thank you for being on the Iron Sharpening Iron show, hanging out with me and my man Walt. Walt, thank you again for your support.
Thank you for letting me join.
Sister B out there for dropping all the links, and we got the book. So make sure you go to the River of Life Ministries site, which is in the chat. Check her out on Sundays, and I think it's Tuesdays, and was it Thursday? Thursday. So my memory ain't all the way gone, so we're right there. So and make sure they check you out. We need 500 subscribers, so I'm not sure what the number is now, but let's get up to that 500 mark. Yes. And Dr. Carla has been a true blessing, and I want to definitely thank you again for being on the Iron Sharpening Iron show, and I hope to catch you on your channel. And I'll support as much as I can. So again, thank you. And for everyone that's out there in the chat, thank you for hanging out with us. And we're going to tell you to stay blessed, peace, and have a good night. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, Dr. Carla.
Night, everybody.
Bye, Walt.
Thank you so
later.
much.
All right.
See you. Bye-bye.